a phase 3 randomized study of cisplatin and pemetrexed with or without bemcetinib in participants with malignant pleural mesothelioma, B-plan. This phase 3 study, NCT03390265, is evaluating the addition of bemcetinib, an oral inhibitor of tyrosine kinase AXL, to the standard of care chemotherapy treatment of cisplatin and pemetrexed. AXL overexpression is associated with cancer progression and drug resistance in mesothelioma. This trial aims to determine if the addition of bemcetinib can improve progression-free survival when combined with cisplatin and pemetrexed. The primary endpoint is PFS and secondary endpoints include overall survival, objective response rate, duration of response, and safety. This is an international, multi-center, randomized, blinded study with an estimated enrollment of 600 to 800 patients. A trial of durvalumab, MEDI4736, added to standard chemotherapy, cisplatin, pemetrexed, for patients with untreated malignant pleural mesothelioma. This phase 3 trial, NCT03063450, is looking at adding the PD-L1 inhibitor durvalumab, Imfinzi, to the standard of care treatment of cisplatin and pemetrexed chemotherapy. Immune checkpoint inhibitors like durvalumab work by blocking immune system breaks called PD-1 and PD-L1 that tumors use to avoid detection and destruction by the immune system. This study aims to determine if adding durvalumab can improve outcomes such as overall survival when combined with standard chemotherapy as an initial treatment for mesothelioma. The primary endpoint is overall survival and secondary endpoints include progression-free survival, objective response rate, duration of response, and safety. The estimated enrollment is 760 patients across sites worldwide. Nivolumab in treating patients with recurrent malignant pleural mesothelioma. This phase 2 study, NCT03050814, is looking at the PD-1 checkpoint inhibitor nivolumab, Opdivo, for patients with recurrent mesothelioma that has progressed after at least one prior chemotherapy regimen. The study aims to evaluate the objective response rate, duration of response, progression-free survival, overall survival and safety of nivolumab monotherapy. Secondary endpoints include tumor biomarkers associated with response to nivolumab, quality of life, and cost-effectiveness. The estimated enrollment is 90 patients across multiple sites in the United States. A study of pembrolizumab, MK3475, in combination with chemotherapy versus chemotherapy alone for first-line treatment of patients with malignant pleural mesothelioma, MK3475-736/Keynote 743. This phase 3 study, NCT03438559, is evaluating the PD-1 inhibitor pembrolizumab, Keytruda, combined with chemotherapy versus chemotherapy alone as initial treatment for mesothelioma. Chemotherapy consists of cisplatin or carboplatin with pemetrexed. The primary endpoint is overall survival with secondary endpoints including progression-free survival, objective response rate, duration of response, overall response rate, safety and pharmacokinetics. Planned enrollment is approximately 780 patients at sites worldwide. Pembrolizumab, MK3475, in combination with chemotherapy in participants with unresectable malignant pleural mesothelioma. This phase 1b/2 study, NCT02784171, is exploring pembrolizumab in combination with chemotherapy as initial treatment for unresectable mesothelioma. Participants receive pembrolizumab plus cisplatin and pemetrexed chemotherapy. Primary objectives are safety, maximum tolerated dose, and an efficacy endpoint of objective response rate. Secondary objectives include progression-free survival, duration of response, overall survival and pharmacokinetics. The study is actively recruiting with an estimated enrollment of 70 participants across sites in the United States, Canada, and Spain. A study of olaparib versus physician's choice single-agent chemotherapy in patients with recurrent malignant pleural mesothelioma following prior platinum-based chemotherapy. This phase 2 study, NCTO 3748-134, is evaluating the PARP inhibitor olaparib, Lynparza, against physicians' choice of single-agent chemotherapy for BRCA mutation-positive recurrent mesothelioma that has progressed after prior platinum-based chemotherapy. The primary endpoint is overall response rate with secondary endpoints including progression-free survival, duration of response, disease control rate, overall survival and safety. Estimated enrollment is 100 patients with a germline or tumor BRCA mutation, BRCA, across sites in several countries. Combination of pembrolizumab and talacotuzumab for the treatment of unresectable malignant pleural mesothelioma. This phase 1b/2 study, NCTO 3493-932, aims to evaluate the safety and efficacy of combining the PD-1 inhibitor pembrolizumab with talacotuzumab, an investigational CD123 targeted monoclonal antibody, for malignant pleural mesothelioma. Patients must have histologically or cytologically confirmed disease that is inoperable. Primary objectives are safety, maximum tolerated dose, and clinical efficacy as measured by overall response rate and progression-free survival at 6 months. Secondary objectives include durations of response, overall survival and pharmacokinetics. Estimated enrollment is 45 patients across sites in the United States and Europe. As evidenced by the variety and comprehensiveness of these ongoing clinical trials, there is promising research occurring to discover new treatment options for malignant pleural mesothelioma. Key areas of investigation include combining immunotherapies like PD-1/PD-L1 inhibitors with chemotherapy or other targeted agents, as well as studying targeted therapies in biomarker-selected patient populations. Continued enrollment in these trials will help advance the field towards discovering treatment regimens that can improve survival outcomes for mesothelioma.